"He sabotaged my boat and left me stranded," yelled my HOA president into 911 while sitting in my stolen speedboat at 2 a.m. The absurdity was incredible. She took my boat without permission, then called authorities claiming I was the wrongdoer. But what Patricia didn't know was that I could monitor and control everything she was doing from my phone. This unreasonable woman thought she was teaching me a lesson about community standards, but she was about to receive the biggest reality check of her life. This is the wild, true story of the most spectacular HOA Karen breakdown ever documented. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And have you ever dealt with a difficult HOA president? Hey everyone, welcome back to BD Stories. Today's story is absolutely insane. Stick around and let me know what you think in the comments. 6 months ago, I thought I'd found paradise when I bought my lakefront house at Pine Lake. My name's Jake Mitchell, I'm 38, and after my software startup got acquired, I decided to trade my cramped city apartment for something with actual breathing room. The best part wasn't the house itself, though it was nice enough. It was my morning commute. Instead of sitting in traffic for 2 hours, I could take my speedboat Thunderbolt across the lake to my office in 15 minutes. Pure blue water, morning mist, and the satisfying rumble of a well-tuned engine. It beats honking horns and exhaust fumes any day of the week. Patricia Stone had other ideas about my peaceful existence. At 62, she'd been the HOA president for 8 years, ever since her husband Harold died and left her with the biggest house on the lake, and apparently nothing better to do than monitor everyone else's lives. She was a former librarian, which explained her obsession with rules and her intolerance for anything louder than a whisper. Patricia lived alone in that massive house, and I'm pretty sure her only hobby was finding new ways to make her neighbors miserable. She had this way of appearing whenever you were doing something even remotely enjoyable, clipboard in hand, ready to cite some obscure regulation you'd supposedly violated. The trouble started in week 1 when Patricia sent me a friendly welcome letter with 12 pages of HOA rules highlighted in yellow. I read through it, chuckled at how thorough she was, and filed it away, thinking that would be the end of it. Week 2 brought the first complaint letter about my boat engine exceeding 65 decibels during morning hours. I checked my boat manual and the engine ran at 58 decibels, well within limits. I emailed back politely with the specifications, thinking this would clear things up. Patricia wasn't interested in facts. Week 3 escalated with a second complaint claiming my boat docking extended 3.2 feet beyond the designated area. She included photos taken from multiple angles with a measuring tape visible in each shot. I measured again, and my dock was exactly to code. Week 4 brought perhaps the most ridiculous complaint yet. Patricia claimed my life jacket hanging on my balcony violated community aesthetic standards under Section 4.7. When I actually read Section 4.7.3, it was about lawn furniture placement, not safety equipment. My patience was wearing thin, but I tried to stay diplomatic. Then came the photo incident that would later become legendary among my neighbors. During week 4, Patricia decided she needed photographic evidence of my supposed violations. She positioned herself behind a tree with this massive telephoto camera, like she was documenting some kind of wildlife crime. When I stepped out to start my boat that morning, I spotted her immediately. Instead of getting angry, I decided to have a little fun. I cheerfully waved and called out, "Good morning, Patricia. Beautiful day for photography." The woman practically jumped out of her skin. She jerked backwards so fast she tripped over her own tripod and tumbled into the shallow water at the lake's edge. Her expensive camera made this satisfying splash as it sank to the bottom. Being a decent person, despite my growing frustration, I waded in to help her up and retrieve her waterlogged camera. "Thank you," she sputtered, mascara running down her cheeks, soaking wet and clearly humiliated. "I was just documenting the wildlife." I handed her the ruined camera with a grin. "The wildlife must be fascinating. Same time tomorrow?" Patricia's face turned red with embarrassment and rage as neighbors peeked out their windows at the commotion. That's when I knew this wasn't going to end with polite emails and property line measurements. The monthly HOA meeting arrived like a bad storm you can see coming but can't avoid. Patricia had prepared a full PowerPoint presentation titled "The Jake Mitchell Problem, a Threat to Community Standards." She'd printed handouts, prepared charts showing supposed noise violation patterns, and invited every resident via certified mail. Only 12 people showed up, including me, but Patricia proceeded as if she were addressing the United Nations. For 20 minutes, she read her 47-point violation report. complete with timestamps, decibel measurements taken with a phone app, and property line calculations she'd done herself with a measuring tape. The woman had clearly spent more time documenting my daily routine than most people spend on their actual jobs. I sat quietly, taking notes and cataloging every inaccuracy with my engineering mind until she finished her presentation. Then I stood up with a simple manila folder. "Thank you, Patricia. Very thorough," I said calmly, opening the folder. "According to Article 2, Section 3 of our HOA Charter, boats under 25 feet may operate from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. My boat is 22 feet, and I use it from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I flipped a page. Section 4.1 states private docks are not subject to HOA spacing requirements. Section 4.7 covers patio furniture and plantings, not safety equipment. Patricia's face reddened as she realized her research was completely wrong. "You think you're so smart with your loopholes?" she snapped. "They're not loopholes, Patricia. They're just the actual rules." Other residents started murmuring in agreement, and I could see Patricia losing control of the room she'd dominated for 8 years. That night, I went home and opened my laptop. I had originally built my boat control app just to track maintenance schedules, but now I've started adding new features: GPS location tracking, engine diagnostics, and something I hoped I'd never need: remote engine controls. If Patricia wanted to escalate this beyond reasonable neighbor disputes, I wanted to be prepared. I had no idea just how far she was willing to go to win this war, but something told me those 12 pages of highlighted rules were just the beginning. What made Patricia so determined to control every aspect of lake life? And how far would she go when legal complaints didn't work? Comment below. Have you ever dealt with a neighbor like Patricia? Type Karen if you think she's about to do something really stupid. The week after the HOA meeting, Patricia began what she dramatically called her documentation phase. Her public embarrassment had fermented into something darker, an obsession. She hired a man named Jerry from a sketchy online classified ad. He claimed to be a private investigator, though his $50 a day fee and battered Honda Civic suggested otherwise. The fedora he wore, like he was cosplaying a detective from a 1940s noir film, didn't help either. Patricia gave him one job: follow Jake Mitchell and document every possible violation, no matter how trivial. Day one was already a disaster. Jerry showed up before sunrise, parked across the street with a thermos and a pair of toy-looking binoculars. I waved to him from my kitchen window. He panicked, ducked, and spilled coffee all over himself. I could hear the swearing from inside my house. On day two, I found him crouched awkwardly behind trees around the lake. During my evening jog, I stopped beside him and smiled. "You must be Jerry. Patricia said something about community monitoring. You want some water?" He blinked like I'd caught him stealing. "Bird watching," he stuttered. "Nice. What species?" The blue-footed lake bird?" I laughed. "I think you mean the great blue heron. No foot color distinction. But hey, good luck." By day 3, Jerry gave up. I spotted him playing Candy Crush at a local coffee shop, jotting fake notes into a pad. Patricia didn't slow down. When spying failed, she went bureaucratic. She filed anonymous complaints to every agency she could think of. She called the county noise control about supposed boat noise violations. An inspector came, tested my boat at 54 decibels, well within legal limits, and complimented the engine maintenance. Next came the Coast Guard. She accused me of unsafe vessel operations. They showed up, did a surprise check, and ended up praising me, even adding my name to their list of exemplary recreational operators. Finally, she contacted the EPA, claiming fuel runoff from my boat was poisoning the lake. After testing, they declared Pine Lake a model of environmental safety and added us to their Community Excellence Program. Each failed attempt made Patricia more frantic. She became convinced I had somehow bribed all the agencies. By week 6, she snapped. If she couldn't get me through channels, she'd get me with physical evidence. She tracked my routines: leave at 7 in the morning, return by 6 in the evening, lights out by 10. One Tuesday night, dressed in black yoga pants and a hoodie, what she apparently considered stealth attire, she crept down to my dock just before midnight. Her plan, I later guessed, was to disable something just enough to strand me, then conveniently show up as the helpful neighbor. Maybe she hoped to restore her image, or maybe she just wanted control. But I had installed security cameras 2 weeks earlier. At 11:47 p.m., footage showed Patricia emerging from the bushes with a flashlight. She tripped over a rope, stumbled into the boat, and accidentally honked the horn. She froze, wide-eyed, for nearly a full minute before tiptoeing toward the engine. There, she opened the hatch and paused, clearly clueless. She pulled out her phone and started Googling how to sabotage a boat. She unscrewed a random decorative trim piece, which dropped into the water with a splash. She winced. Then she tried the oil cap, failed, and eventually took out a screwdriver to poke at things she didn't understand, muttering, "This has to do something." Then came the bag of sand. She poured it into what she thought was the gas tank. It was the cup holder. Finally, she placed a manila envelope labeled "Confidential" on the boat seat, like she was planting evidence of some criminal scheme. As she tried to leave, her yoga pants caught on a cleat. She ripped them and almost fell into the lake. One shoe slipped off. She limped away barefoot, muttering, "That'll teach him to humiliate me." The next morning, I sipped my coffee and reviewed the footage. I wasn't angry. If anything, I felt a weird pity. But the escalation was alarming. I called my college friend Sam Brooks, now the local police captain. "Sam, I've got a neighbor who's gone from annoying to criminal. Let me guess, HOA president with a power complex?" "Bingo. Last night she tried to sabotage my boat. I have it all on camera. But here's the thing. I think she's gearing up for something worse." "You want to press charges?" "Not yet. I want her to walk herself into something she can't wiggle out of." "You want to bait her?" "Yes. Let her think she's won. Let her steal the boat. With tracking, remote engine kill. You ready to nab her mid-crime?" Sam paused. "You sure about this? It'll wreck her life." "She'll already wrecked her own reputation. I'm just giving her rope." We spent an hour planning. I upgraded the boat's GPS to live tracking, installed a remote shutoff via my phone, and left spare keys and a few fake confidential files on board. Sam coordinated local patrol coverage, and I set an alibi. I'd be clearly out of town. That night, as I double-checked the new boat controls, I got a news alert. Pine Lake HOA President Patricia Green was facing a no-confidence petition signed by 15 residents. Was that enough to tip her into one last act of desperation? Comment below. Was I going too far, or did Patricia bring this on herself? Type TRAP if you think she was about to walk straight into it. Creating my out-of-town story required careful planning. I booked a hotel room 2 hours away, posted on social media about a weekend business retreat, and made sure Patricia overheard me telling my landscaper, "I'll be gone Thursday through Sunday. Keep an eye on things, especially the boat." Thursday afternoon, I drove to my hotel, checked in, took a selfie in the lobby, then immediately drove back. I parked my car in the hotel garage where it wouldn't be seen, and took a ride share to my friend Mike's apartment, 30 minutes from Pine Lake. From there, I had perfect internet to monitor my boat's location and security cameras while maintaining my alibi. I called Sam to confirm that Phase 1 was complete. "I'm officially out of town, but actually watching from Mike's place." "The spare key?" he asked, sitting right on the boat seat, where even a blind person could find it. "The confidential documents bag is there too." "What's actually in the bag?" "Printouts of cookie recipes I found online. If she opens it looking for blackmail material, she'll find my grandmother's chocolate chip recipe and Martha Stewart's snickerdoodles." Sam laughed. "And if she doesn't take the bait? Then I'll know she's not as far gone as I think, and we'll call this off." "But Sam, I don't think that's going to happen." That same Thursday, Patricia received devastating news that pushed her past rational thought. The HOA board had called a special meeting for the following Tuesday to discuss leadership concerns. Mrs. Henderson had collected signatures from 18 residents requesting Patricia's immediate removal as president. The petition listed complaints that cut deep: excessive fines for minor infractions, harassment of residents over normal activities, waste of HOA funds on frivolous investigations, creating a hostile environment in their community, and abuse of authority for personal vendettas. Patricia sat in her empty house reading the petition over and over, Harold's photo on the mantel seeming to judge her. "I'm protecting our investment, Harold," she whispered. "Someone has to maintain the standards you and I built here." She poured a large glass of wine and stared across the lake at my house. My boat sat innocently at the dock, mocking her authority. In her mind, this wasn't about rules anymore. It was about respect, control, and proving she was right about me all along. "He started this war," she muttered, wine loosening her inhibitions. Mr. Perfect with his perfect boat and perfect rule knowledge. Everyone loved this neighborhood before he came along with his noise and his attitude. The wine amplified her resentment, and in her increasingly distorted thinking, I wasn't just a rule-following neighbor. I was the symbol of her failure to control her domain, the reason Harold would be disappointed in her, the cause of every problem at Pine Lake. She called Jerry one last time. "I need you to do something more direct." "Like what, Mrs. Stone?" "I think Jake is hiding something criminal. We need to search his property when he's not there." "Ma'am, that's breaking and entering. I can't." "You're fired." She hung up and poured another glass of wine. Patricia opened her laptop and started researching how to gather evidence of illegal activity and citizens' arrest procedures. The wine and her growing desperation combined into a dangerous cocktail of bad judgment. Friday at 11 p.m., emboldened by liquid courage and righteous anger, Patricia decided tonight was the night. She would search my boat for evidence of illegal activity, and if she found nothing, she would plant something. Anything to prove she was right about me. Wearing all black again, she brought a backpack with evidence-planting supplies, a bag of suspicious white powder that was actually flour, some random USB drives, and printouts of fake financial documents she'd created on her computer. I watched her approach through my security cameras from Mike's apartment. "She's making her move," I texted Sam. "I'm 10 minutes out from the boat launch," he responded. "Don't activate anything until I'm in position." Patricia reached the boat and immediately spotted the spare key on the seat. "Too easy," she whispered suspiciously. "This is definitely a trap." She examined the key like it might explode, then the boat, then the key again. For 20 minutes she circled the boat like a confused predator, taking photos of everything with her phone, looking for evidence that I was setting her up. She found the confidential documents bag and opened it with trembling hands. "Add chocolate chips gradually while mixing on medium speed. Bake for 12 minutes at 350 degrees. What the hell?" She flipped through more pages. Martha's famous snickerdoodles. Holiday fudge recipe. This is just cooking. Her conspiracy theory crumbled. Maybe I really was just a normal guy with a boat. But then the wine-fueled rage returned, mixed with embarrassment at being fooled by cookie recipes. "No, he's making fun of me. Fake documents. He knew I'd search his boat, and he's laughing at me." She pocketed the spare key and stormed back to her house, but the key burned in her pocket like a guilty secret. Saturday at 1 a.m., Patricia lay awake staring at the ceiling. The key sat on her nightstand, taunting her. She kept thinking about the HOA meeting next Tuesday, the petition, and the residents who used to respect her. "One boat ride," she whispered to herself. "I'll take his precious boat for one trip around the lake. Let him wonder where it went. Let him feel powerless for once." She grabbed the key and marched back to the dock, her decision made. This time, I was ready. "She's back," I texted Sam. "This looks like the real attempt." Engine started. I watched Patricia climb into Thunderbolt and insert the key. The engine turned over perfectly. "She's in." Engine running. "I'm positioned at the boat launch. The moment you cut the engine, I'll head out." At 1:15 a.m., Patricia, sitting behind the wheel of a stolen speedboat, suddenly felt powerful for the first time in months. The engine purred beneath her. The lake stretched out before her like her personal kingdom, and I was nowhere to be seen. "Let's see how you like losing something important," she said, and pushed the throttle forward. I watched my GPS tracker as Thunderbolt accelerated across the lake, 20 miles per hour, 30, 40. Patricia was really going for it, and for a moment I actually felt sorry for her. She was about to discover the intoxicating freedom of driving a powerful speedboat at night, the lake completely empty, the moon bright, and for the first time since Harold died, she probably felt truly alive and in control. "This is what power feels like," I could imagine her shouting over the engine noise. She pushed the throttle further, 45 miles per hour across the glassy water, the boat skimming like a flying machine. But her joyride was about to come to an abrupt end. Is Patricia really about to destroy someone's life over a neighborhood dispute? Hit that comment button. Do you think I should stop Patricia now or let her dig herself deeper? Type stop or go to vote on what I should do next. Patricia discovered the intoxicating freedom of driving a powerful speedboat at night. The lake was completely empty, the moon was bright, and for the first time since Harold died, she felt truly alive and in control. "This is what power feels like," she shouted over the engine noise, pushing the throttle further to 45 miles per hour across the glassy water. I watched the GPS tracker with mixed emotion. Part of me was angry she'd stolen my boat, but another part almost admired her boldness. "She's doing 50 now," I texted Sam. "I think she's actually enjoying herself." "How long are you going to let this go on?" he replied. "A few more minutes. Let her get really comfortable. Let her think she's gotten away with something." Patricia piloted Thunderbolt in wide circles around the lake, imagining she was teaching me the ultimate lesson. In her wine-addled mind, this wasn't theft, it was justice. She was reclaiming the lake from someone who didn't respect her authority. She passed her own house and waved sarcastically at it. Look at me now, Harold. I'm taking control. I'm fixing things. The speed, the power, the feeling of finally winning, it was addictive. Patricia decided to really send a message by taking the boat to the far end of the lake, a 15-minute trip that would definitely panic me when I discovered it missing. Time to wrap this up, I texted Sam. She's heading for the deep water. Perfect, I'm ready. I hovered my finger over the engine kill button on my phone. Sorry, Patricia, but you chose this path. At 1:27 a.m., I pressed the button. Thunderbolt's engine died instantly. The sudden silence was deafening. Patricia, doing 50 miles per hour 1 second and coasting the next, nearly flew over the windshield as the boat's momentum carried it forward. "What the hell?" she screamed, grabbing the steering wheel. The boat's momentum carried it another 200 yards before it settled into a slow drift in the middle of the lake. She turned the key frantically, nothing. She pumped the gas pedal, nothing. She hit the dashboard with her fist, still nothing. "Start, you piece of garbage, start!" For 5 minutes, Patricia battled the boat's controls like she was performing an exorcism. She tried everything her panic mind could think of, turning the key on and off, checking for loose wires she had no idea how to identify, even getting out and checking if something was wrapped around the propeller. The temperature was 55 degrees. She was wearing thin black clothes. The shore looked impossibly far away in every direction. The wine was wearing off, replaced by cold reality. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. She checked her phone. Full battery, good signal. She briefly considered calling a friend for help, then realized she'd have to explain why she was in my boat in the middle of the night. Then she remembered I was out of town at some business retreat. I wouldn't even know the boat was missing until I got back Sunday. A terrible plan formed in her desperate mind. At 1:32 a.m., Patricia dialed 911, took a deep breath, and transformed herself into the victim she needed to be. 911, what's your emergency? The operator answered. Yes, I need help immediately. I'm stranded on Pine Lake and I think someone is trying to hurt me, Patricia replied, her voice shaking with cold and manufactured fear. What's your location, ma'am? I'm in the middle of the lake, in a boat. The engine just died, and I can't get back to shore. How did you get to the middle of the lake? My neighbor, Jake Mitchell, let me borrow his boat earlier, but now I think he's done something to it remotely. He's been harassing me for months, and I think this is his way of getting revenge. Ma'am, you're saying someone sabotaged the boat while you were on it? Yes, he has some kind of app on his phone. He can control the engine. I've seen him use it. This was actually true. I did have a boat control app, which Patricia had noticed me using for maintenance checks. And this is your boat? The operator asked. After a long pause, Patricia replied, Well, technically it's his boat, but he gave me permission to use it. We had an arrangement. What kind of arrangement? Look, that's not important right now. I'm trapped out here and it's freezing. Can you send someone to help me? Of course, ma'am. I'm dispatching the Marine Patrol. Can you describe the boat? It's blue, about 20 feet long, called Thunderbolt. But listen, when you contact Jake Mitchell, don't believe anything he says. He's been trying to get me removed from the HOA board, and this is his way of intimidating me. Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. Help is on the way. Are you in immediate danger? Patricia was warming to her role. I don't know. He could do anything with that app. What if he starts the engine while someone is in the water? What if he's monitoring my location right now? He's probably listening to this call. Ma'am, are you saying this Jake Mitchell can hear our conversation? I wouldn't put anything past him. He's some kind of tech genius. He probably has my phone tapped. He's been planning this for weeks. At this point, listening to the police scanner app on my phone, I could barely contain my laughter. She's really committing to this story, I texted Sam. Ma'am, let's focus on getting you to safety. Are you wearing a life jacket? The operator continued. No, he didn't provide safety equipment. See, this was all planned. There should be life jackets on board any registered vessel. Well, I don't see any, Patricia replied, though she hadn't looked. Please check the storage compartments under the seats. After a pause, she said, Okay, there are some here. But that doesn't change anything. He lured me onto this boat and then trapped me. Ma'am, you said he gave you permission to use the boat. Did you have that permission in writing? No, it was verbal. We discussed it at the HOA meeting. And what time did this discussion take place? Patricia realized her story had problems. Look, why are you interrogating me? I'm the victim here. Jake Mitchell is the one you should be investigating. I'm just gathering information, ma'am. What time did you get on the boat? Around earlier this evening, before it got dark. So you've been on the water for several hours? No, we went for a short ride, then I came back, but then the engine died when I tried to leave again. You tried to leave again at 1:30 a.m.? Patricia was getting flustered. I couldn't sleep. I thought a short ride would help, but then he activated his sabotage app. Ma'am, I'm going to connect you with our Marine unit. They'll be with you shortly. Meanwhile, I called Sam directly. She just gave the most insane 911 call in history. She's claiming I let her borrow the boat but then sabotaged it remotely. I heard the whole thing on dispatch, Sam laughed. She also just admitted to taking your boat at 1:30 a.m. for a short ride to help her sleep. Are you heading out? Already on the water. I should reach her in about 8 minutes. What's the plan when you get there? Well, she called 911 to report being sabotaged by you, so I'll have to investigate her claim, which means interviewing both of you about this arrangement for her to use your boat. And when she can't produce any evidence of this arrangement, then we'll have to consider other explanations for why she was operating your vessel without permission at 1:30 a.m. I grinned in the darkness of Mike's apartment. I'll head back to Pine Lake now. Should be there in 30 minutes. Perfect timing. This is going to be interesting. What happens when Sam starts asking detailed questions about her arrangement with me? And will Patricia's story hold up under scrutiny? Smash that comment button. What do you think Patricia will say when the police start investigating her claims? Type "busted" if you think her story is about to fall apart completely. Sam's Marine patrol boat reached Patricia at 1:45 a.m., and she immediately launched into her victim's story before he even spoke. "Thank God you're here. Jake Mitchell tried to kill me. He has some kind of remote control app that can shut off boat engines. This was all planned." Sam maintained professional composure despite knowing the truth. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Brooks. Let's get you safely back to shore first. Then we'll sort this out." As he helped Patricia onto his patrol boat, he asked routine questions designed to poke holes in her story. "Can you tell me again exactly how you ended up on Mr. Mitchell's boat?" "He gave me permission. We had an arrangement." "When was this arrangement made?" "At the HOA meeting last week." "And what time did you board the boat tonight?" Patricia realized she'd already given conflicting information to the 911 operator. Well, it was earlier, but then I came back later because I couldn't sleep." "So you took the boat twice tonight?" "No, yes, but the second time was when he sabotaged it." Sam towed Thunderbolt behind his patrol boat while Patricia continued digging herself deeper. "And Mr. Mitchell was present when you took the boat the second time?" "No, he's out of town. That's how I know he used his remote app." "So he gave you permission to use his boat while he was out of town?" "Well, not exactly, but we had an understanding." By the time they reached the dock, Patricia had changed her story 4 times and contradicted herself on every major detail. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come to the station to file a formal complaint about this incident." "Good. I want Jake Mitchell arrested immediately for attempted murder. We'll certainly investigate your claims thoroughly, but first, I need to contact Mr. Mitchell to get his version of events." "He's out of town. He planned this whole thing so he'd have an alibi. Then I suppose we'll have to wait for him to return. Shouldn't take long. Attempted murder is a serious charge." At 2:15 a.m., Patricia sat in the interview room, coffee growing cold, still convinced she was the victim, preparing her official statement. She'd had 45 minutes to refine her story and felt confident about her version of events. Patricia hired a cheap lawyer who called me, threatening legal action. "My client will sue you for entrapment and endangerment," the attorney warned over the phone. I had one stressful day, barely eating, wondering if I'd gone too far with my plan. But 24 hours later, an email arrived. "Mr. Mitchell, after reviewing the evidence, we're dropping Miss Stone as a client. This case is too clear-cut." At 2:30 a.m., I arrived at the station, looking appropriately concerned and confused. "Officer Brooks, thank God, Patricia is safe. What happened to my boat?" Sam maintained the charade perfectly. "Mr. Mitchell, Miss Stone claims you gave her permission to use your vessel, then remotely disabled it while she was on the water." What? When did I supposedly give her permission?" Patricia interjected from across the room. "Don't play dumb. We discussed it at the HOA meeting." I looked genuinely puzzled. "Patricia, I've never given you permission to use my boat. At the HOA meeting, you were presenting a 47-point complaint about me having it." "That's a lie. Tell him, Officer Brooks. Tell him about our arrangement." Sam opened his notepad. "Miss Stone, can you be more specific about this arrangement? What exactly did Mr. Mitchell say to you?" Patricia realized she'd never thought this part through. "He said I could borrow at any time for HOA business." "Patricia, I've never spoken to you privately. Every interaction we've had was at public HOA meetings where you were trying to get me fined. You're lying. You gave me the spare key." "What spare key?" Patricia triumphantly pulled the key from her pocket. "This one." I examined it carefully. "Patricia, this is my spare key." How did you get it? You left it for me. Where did I leave it? On the boat seat? I turned to Sam. Officer, I never gave Patricia a key. I never gave her permission to use my boat. If she found a spare key on my boat, she would have had to board it without permission to get it. The room fell silent as Patricia realized her story had just collapsed. Sam asked carefully, Miss Stone, are you saying you boarded Mr. Mitchell's boat without his knowledge to retrieve a key you claim he left for you? That's not... He knew I would find it. Did he tell you to look for it? No, but... Did he call you or text you about borrowing his boat? No. Did anyone witness him giving you permission? No, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I quietly placed a USB drive on the table. Officer Brooks, I think this might help clarify the situation. Sam plugged the USB into his laptop. Mr. Mitchell, what am I looking at? Security camera footage from my dock, starting at 11:45 p.m. tonight. They watched Patricia's entire performance, creeping toward the boat in ninja clothes, finding the key, fumbling with the engine, and driving away at high speed while laughing maniacally. Miss Stone, Sam said carefully, this footage shows you taking Mr. Mitchell's boat without his knowledge or permission at 1:15 a.m. That constitutes theft of a motor vehicle. But he wasn't even home. How could I ask permission? Exactly my point. If he wasn't home, how could he have given you permission? Patricia watched herself on video and realized how guilty she looked. This is entrapment. He set me up. Patricia, I left my spare key in the boat by accident after maintenance yesterday. I had no idea you'd find it and steal my boat. You have an app that controls the engine. You shut it off remotely. Yes, I have a maintenance app that can diagnose engine problems and activate safety features. When my GPS tracker showed the boat speeding across the lake at 1 a.m., I used the emergency shutdown feature. Sam noted, that's a standard anti-theft feature on modern boats, like a car alarm. Patricia protested, so you admit you were tracking me? I was tracking my stolen boat, yes. Just like if someone stole my car. Sam reviewed the 911 call recording. Miss Stone, in your emergency call you said, Mr. Mitchell let you borrow his boat earlier, but also that he trapped you and tried to hurt you. Which version is true? Patricia realized she'd been caught in multiple lies. I was scared. I wasn't thinking clearly. You also said you took the boat because you couldn't sleep at 1:30 a.m. Does that sound like something someone does with a borrowed boat? I just needed some air. At 50 miles per hour across a lake in the middle of the night? Patricia slumped in her chair as the weight of evidence crushed her story. Fine, I took his stupid boat, but he deserved it. He's been harassing me for months, I added calmly. Patricia, you've sent me 23 complaint letters, hired a private investigator to follow me, tried to sabotage my boat twice, and now you've stolen it. I have documentation of everything. Brooks comments, 25 years on the force. Never seen someone record their own crime so thoroughly. Sam closed his notepad and reached for his handcuffs. But as Patricia realized she was about to be arrested, would she finally admit the truth? Drop a comment, do you think Patricia will finally take responsibility, or keep blaming me? Type guilty if you think she's finally caught, or Denny if you think she'll keep lying. Within 48 hours, word of Patricia's boat theft spread through Pine Lake like wildfire. The story was too bizarre not to share. The HOA president who complained about noise violations had stolen a speedboat and led police on a midnight chase across the lake. Mrs. Henderson organized an emergency HOA meeting for Friday evening with one agenda item: immediate removal of Patricia Stone from all HOA positions and board membership. Patricia, out on bail and facing criminal charges, made one last desperate attempt to control the narrative. She sent a mass email to all residents claiming she was the victim of a sophisticated harassment campaign by me, that I'd used illegal surveillance technology to entrap her and manipulated local police into believing fabricated evidence. She insisted she was conducting legitimate HOA business when the incident occurred and requested support as their elected president during this coordinated attack on community leadership. The email backfired spectacularly. Residents who were previously neutral now saw Patricia as completely delusional and potentially dangerous. I received dozens of supportive messages from neighbors, apologizing for what I'd endured, thanking me for handling things legally instead of just moving away, expressing disbelief that she'd actually stolen my boat and called 911, and praising me for saving the neighborhood from a tyrant. The emergency HOA vote wasn't even close. 34-0 to remove Patricia immediately. Even residents who didn't attend submitted proxy votes against her. It was the largest turnout in Pine Lake HOA history, with people driving in from vacation just to cast their vote. Facing criminal charges and complete social exile, Patricia made one final attempt to avoid consequences. She hired the only lawyer willing to take her case for the $500 she could afford to pay up front. Attorney Jim Morrison, who'd graduated from law school in 1987 and spent most of his career handling DUI cases and small claims disputes, had never dealt with boat theft, but needed the money. Morrison's legal strategy was simple. Claim I'd orchestrated the whole thing as an elaborate trap. Your Honor, Morrison argued in municipal court, my client was clearly entrapped by Mr. Mitchell, who deliberately left his boat key accessible, knowing she would find it. This was a premeditated scheme to get her arrested. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Walsh, barely had to respond. Your Honor, leaving your own property key in your own boat on your own dock is not entrapment. Ms. Stone made a conscious choice to take that key, steal the boat, and then lie to police about it. Judge Martinez reviewed the evidence, security footage, GPS data, the 911 recording, and Patricia's contradictory statements to police. Ms. Stone, the judge asked, do you have any evidence that Mr. Mitchell gave you permission to use his boat? Patricia, having fired Morrison mid-trial after he suggested she plead guilty, replied, I don't need written permission. I was the HOA president. I had the authority to investigate violations of community standards. What violations were you investigating at 1:30 a.m.? Noise pollution, safety violations, illegal use of community waterways. He could have been using the boat for criminal purposes. By stealing the boat yourself and operating it at high speed across the lake? I was gathering evidence of his reckless behavior patterns. Judge Martinez had heard enough. Ms. Stone, you stole a motor vehicle, lied to police officers, and wasted emergency resources. Your former position as HOA president gave you no authority to take someone else's property without permission. The sentence was 6 months jail suspended, 2 years probation, $8,000 in fines, 200 hours of community service, a lifetime ban from any HOA leadership positions, and a 5-year restraining order prohibiting contact with me or my property. The removal of Patricia created an immediate positive transformation at Pine Lake. The new HOA board, led by Mrs. Miller, a retired teacher with no relation to me despite the name, implemented common-sense policies that focused on community building rather than enforcement. Complaints had to be specific, documented, and based on actual rule violations. No more than 1 complaint per resident per month was allowed. All fines required approval from a 3-person committee after investigation. Private investigators and surveillance of residents were strictly prohibited. Board meetings focused on community improvement projects, not violation enforcement. A good neighbor policy encouraged direct communication before formal complaints, and they established the Patricia Stone rule. Any HOA officer receiving more than 3 legitimate harassment complaints would face immediate board review. I became something of a local hero, but handled the attention with characteristic humility. At the first post-Patricia HOA meeting, residents gave me a standing ovation when I entered. Thank you all, I said, but I didn't do anything special. I just documented everything and let the legal system handle it properly. Mrs. Henderson stood up and said, Jake, you showed us that we don't have to accept bullying from people in authority positions. You stood up for all of us who were too afraid to speak up. The new HOA board voted unanimously to officially apologize to me for Patricia's harassment campaign, reimburse me for legal expenses and security equipment costs, create a Neighbor Appreciation Day annual event to build community instead of division, and establish a memorial fund for positive community projects in Harold's name, which felt like the right thing to do. My daily boat commute resumed without incident. Neighbors waved from their docks, kids asked to see Thunderbolt up close, and parents thanked me for saving the neighborhood. The lake returned to the peaceful community it was meant to be. Property values actually increased over the following months as word spread about Pine Lake's transformation from HOA nightmare to model community. The security cameras around my dock were repurposed as a community watch system, helping neighbors monitor each other's property during vacations and providing peace of mind for elderly residents. Patricia completed her community service cleaning up state park beaches and finished court-mandated anger management classes. She sold her lake house for 15% below market value and moved to a downtown condo. Rumors suggested she tried to become president of her new building's tenant association, but was quietly rejected after residents found news articles about the boat theft online. 3 months later, I hosted a small barbecue on my deck. 25 neighbors attended, more than had gathered socially at Pine Lake in years. As the sun set over the peaceful lake, my phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Heard Patricia completed her community service. How's the neighborhood? I looked around at my friends and neighbors enjoying themselves, then typed back, perfect. Couldn't be better. But I had no idea what surprise announcement was coming next. Comment below, do you think I deserved this happy ending? Type hero if you think I handled Patricia perfectly, or karma if you think she got what she deserved. 6 months later, Pine Lake had transformed into the community everyone hoped it could be. The new HOA focused on organizing social events rather than enforcing petty rules. Monthly Lake Day celebrations brought families together, and a community boat safety course taught kids proper water recreation. Property values had increased by 12% because people actively wanted to live in a neighborhood known for being friendly and supportive rather than litigious and hostile. I'd settled into a comfortable routine as the unofficial neighborhood tech guy, helping elderly residents with their devices and teaching teenagers about boat maintenance. My morning boat commute had become a beloved local landmark. Kids waved from their docks, and I sometimes gave weekend boat rides to families whose children now wanted to be boat engineers when they grew up. The security cameras around my dock had been repurposed as a community watch system, helping neighbors monitor each other's property during vacations. Patricia, meanwhile, had completed her community service cleaning up state park beaches and finished court-mandated anger management classes. She'd sold her lake house for 15% below market value and moved to a downtown condo, where rumors suggested she'd tried to become president of her new building's tenant association, but was quietly rejected after residents found news articles about the boat theft. I rarely thought about her anymore, except when new neighbors asked about the legend of the HOA. Karen and I had to retell the story. I'd become something of a local celebrity, the man who stood up to neighborhood tyranny with patience, documentation, and just the right amount of clever planning. Life at Pine Lake was good, really good, almost too good to last. On a sunny Saturday morning in late summer, I was watching Thunderbolt when Mrs. Miller approached, with a mysterious smile and a small crowd of neighbors following behind her. "Jake, can you gather everyone for a quick announcement? I have some very interesting news about our community." Within 20 minutes, curious neighbors assembled on my deck and boat dock. Mrs. Miller had been uncharacteristically secretive about this meeting, only saying it was the best news Pine Lake had had in years. "Thank you all for coming," she began, clearly excited. "As you know, our community has been through some significant changes this year. We've learned valuable lessons about the importance of good neighbors, fair leadership, and standing up for what's right." People nodded, wondering where this was going. I noticed several neighbors grinning, like they were in on a secret. Well, I'm happy to announce that Pine Lake is getting a very special new neighbor. Specifically, we're getting a new resident at 47 Lakeshore Drive. Everyone's attention focused on Patricia's old house, which had been empty for 6 months. The new resident is someone who's already proven his commitment to our community's safety and well-being. Someone who knows how to handle difficult situations with professionalism, fairness, and just the right amount of authority. Someone who has experience dealing with challenging personalities and ensuring that justice is served appropriately. Sam emerged from behind the house next door, wearing a Pine Lake resident t-shirt and grinning broadly. "Surprise!" The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. I stared in complete shock. "Sam, you bought Patricia's house?" "Got it for 20% below market value," he laughed. "Turns out having your previous owner arrested for boat theft in the middle of the night really affects property desirability." Mrs. Henderson asked the question everyone was thinking. "Does this mean we have our own police officer living here full-time?" "Well," Sam said with mock seriousness, "I can't provide official police services just because I live here. But I can say that Pine Lake will now have someone with extensive law enforcement experience available 24/7 for neighborly consultation." The crowd cheered again. As the neighbors celebrated with impromptu drinks and snacks that seemed to have been pre-planned, I pulled Sam aside, still processing the surprise. "Okay, level with me. How long have you been planning this?" Sam grinned. "Since the night I arrested Patricia. When I saw that house go up for sale 2 months later, I knew it was perfect. Close to work, great lake access, and the most effective neighbor screening process imaginable." Neighbor screening process? Think about it. Anyone crazy enough to steal a boat and call 911 to blame the victim has already been weeded out of this community. This neighborhood is pre-tested for sanity and common sense. I laughed. "So you're saying Patricia's criminal behavior was like a quality control filter?" "Exactly. Plus, I've always wanted lakefront property, and your daily boat commute convinced me that water transportation beats highway traffic any day. Sam pulled out his phone and showed me a familiar-looking app. I bought a boat, too. Nothing as fancy as Thunderbolt, but it's got GPS tracking and remote engine control. You didn't. Learned from the best, though hopefully I won't need the theft recovery features in this neighborhood. They watched the neighbors enjoying themselves on my deck. Kids were playing safely by the water, while adults shared stories and laughed. The contrast with the tense, fearful atmosphere from a year ago was remarkable. You know what the best part is? Sam said. What? Patricia spent 8 years trying to control this neighborhood through fear, intimidation, and petty rule enforcement. Now it's going to be protected by someone who actually understands community policing and neighbor relations. I raised my beer. To poetic justice. Sam clinked bottles. To the most expensive boat theft in Pine Lake history. 1 year later, Pine Lake hosted its first annual Community Safety and Fun Day, a family-friendly event featuring boat safety demonstrations, neighborhood watch training, water sports competitions, and a massive potluck dinner. Sam and I co-hosted the event, teaching families about GPS tracking, security cameras, and water safety while emphasizing that technology should protect privacy, not invade it. During the evening barbecue, Mrs. Miller presented me with a custom plaque in appreciation for showing us that standing up to bullies benefits everyone, and that patience and documentation defeat harassment every time. As I accepted the plaque to thunderous applause, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Saw your community event photos online. Looks wonderful. Hope you're all very happy together. I showed the message to Sam, who shrugged. Probably best to just delete it and enjoy the party. Agreed. I deleted the message and turned my phone face down. Looking around at my neighbors, kids playing safely in the water, families enjoying themselves, Sam grilling burgers in his officer-friendly apron, I reflected on how one person's obsession with control had accidentally created the perfect community. Sometimes the best outcomes really do come from the worst situations. As the celebration continued, I noticed a for sale sign going up at another house across the lake. I nudged Sam and pointed. Think we should run a background check on whoever buys that one? Sam grinned. Already on it. This neighborhood has standards to maintain. The perfect community was about to get even more perfect. Hit that like button if you think Sam and I make the perfect neighbor team. Comment perfect if you want to live in a community like Pine Lake, or share your own HOA horror stories below. And don't forget to subscribe, because karma stories like this don't write themselves.
Still here? You're one of us now. Subscribe to BD Stories and binge like your group chat depends on it.